everyone. I am sorry to be the bearer of bad news, but Ryan went in yesterday for a sort of routine operation of some kind, and it went slightly awry, and he's got a huge bandage on his face, and he's kind of in a neck brace. So he's not able to moderate today's call, and he asked me to step in. I see some familiar names in the participants tab here, but for those of you who don't know me, I'm Billy Oppenheimer. I've been Ryan's research assistant for 5 years now. Like a lot of you, I was just a huge fan of Ryan's work. First read Obstacles the Way in 2017, and then kind of just went down the rabbit hole of his work and read everything I could find, and eventually reached out to him about potentially working for him. And the timing was right. And I've been working with him since 2018, the spring of 2018. And kind of weird to be on this call in this position. I'm usually a participant and help out in the creation of these challenges, but then I also do them myself every year. So it's, yeah, it's kind of weird to be the moderator. But if anyone has questions for me, or if we want to just kind of kick around some of the challenges so far, I guess we'll just kind of open it up and see where things go. Trying to see how I unmute people here.
And Billy, if you just want to call on somebody that has their hands up, I can unmute them for you.
Okay, great. Thank you, Rachel. How about Andrew Michael?
Well, hello, Billy.
Will I be able to see people, Rachel?
I cannot. Hang on.
I can hear you, Andrew, but I can't see you.
Well, that's all right. I don't look that exciting anyway.
All right.
All right, a quick question for you, and thank you very much for doing this for us. Every year, I'm a real estate agent. Every year, we set goals, and it's usually like sales goals, like, whatever.
Yeah.
And I do know in Marcus Aurelius' Meditations, he does talk about goals and how if you don't have them, you don't really know where you're going. I'm not going to read directly because I'm sure you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
How do you think Ryan would recommend going about in setting goals? Like, what are some good ways to kind of figure out long term? Does that kind of make sense? Do you see what I'm asking?
Yeah. It makes me think I don't know exactly the Marcus quote you're referring to, but I do. There's a line from Seneca about, like, if you don't know to what port you're sailing, no wind is favorable. Is that kind of what you?
Yeah, that's along the same line.
Similar. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I guess Ryan wrote recently about how his word for this year is systems, and I think it's partially inspired by the work of his friend and the great writer James Clear, who makes that distinction in Atomic Habits between goals and systems. But are you so specifically related to your career, like goals related to
Just in general, I guess. Systems, for what I do, I'm pretty good on that front, but it's more of setting goals, I guess.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't have a great answer to that. I'm sorry.
Okay. Yeah, fine.
So what do you got there? Yeah, I would check out Ryan's piece on it. It was published last week or the week before. And I think that would be.
Is it one of his emails that went out, or?
Yeah, it's called The Word I'm Trying to Live By This Year. If you go to ryanholiday.net and then to the blog tab, you'll see it.
Trying to live by. Okay, I will look that up. Thank you very much, and I hope he gets better.
Yeah, me too. Thank you, Andrew.
Sounds good.
Rachel, how about David Serbin?
Thank you very much. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Thanks. So I am a therapist, and I Nice to meet you, Billy. And I was wondering if anyone who's a therapist has paired Stoic philosophy with therapy. I know Ryan talks about Seneca saying we should put our own spin on Stoicism, and
Yeah.
I haven't seen it paired, but I would love to know if there's anyone who has paired it, as well as like if there's like a project where like there's a philosopher working with people in therapy to advocate for mental health, like if there's someone who's paired that, or if that's a thing that Ryan or any other Stoic philosophers are interested in. There was a similar question that was asked last week, but I'm wondering if anyone's done that before.
Have you read Donald Robertson's work?
I've heard of him, and I've seen a little interview of him with Ryan Holiday.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he's a practicing therapist, or yes, a psychologist of some kind. And he's been doing a lot of work. I think he's got 3 or 4 books on how he specifically applies Stoicism in his cognitive behavioral practices. So I would check him out. And then there's someone, who's the CBT? Do you know who I'm talking about? I can't remember the other guy's name, but I'll drop it in the chat once we pull it up. But there's another psychologist who was kind of inspired by it, and then built on top of Epictetus's discourses. I'm blanking on his name right now, but we'll find it. But I would definitely check out Donald's work, and he's got a great blog as well where he writes pretty consistently.
I'll check it out because I think it is very helpful for mental health. I know it's been helpful in my own life. I've been reticent to just apply it just yet without you know someone else kind of leading the way or seeing if someone else has done that too. But I think I think it can be very helpful for people's mental health to focus on like, what's in their
Yes.
control.
Oh, Albert Ellis was the other guy's name.
Albert Ellis, yeah.
Yeah.
So I've been reading about that too, where like the early founders of CBT were inspired by Stoicism, and somewhere along the way that connection between CBT and Stoicism was not as well known as it was. But it'd
Yeah.
be great if people could make that connection between the two, because they're very similar. I see similarities with CBT and also existential psychotherapy as well.
Have you started to talk to patients about Stoicism, or just introducing them to?
Only if they themselves have brought it up,
Yeah.
because self-disclosure is something that's very tricky in our field. But it would be great to, I think, pair those two. And so I'd love to have some way of connecting those two for people who do want that, because I think it's it can be very powerful for people.
Yeah. Someone's writing in the chat about the best book on philosophy of CBT is Donald Robertson. Yeah, so I would definitely look into Donald's work.
Thank you, Billy. Really appreciate it.
Yeah. Let's see. How about Becky Vanderwood? Is that how you pronounce that? Hey, Becky.
Yep, that's how you pronounce it. I don't know why my video isn't working. I have it on. But my question is this. I'm in recovery, and there's so much similarity between Stoicism and the Alcoholics Anonymous philosophy and just recovery in general. And I'm wondering, has Ryan ever considered, or has he considered writing a book on addiction? I think it would be so helpful.
That's a good. Not that I'm aware of. his next 3 or 4 books are in various stages. I'm not sure what he's has in mind for the books thereafter. I wouldn't be shocked if that happened at some point. I know he's mentioned,
Yeah.
I think in Ego is the Enemy, there's some stuff about some of the things he's learned from the AA community, and maybe in Stillness as well.
Yeah, he's
Um,
definitely mentioned it, and Discipline is Destiny
yes.
is amazing. It really, it's so applicable. And so I just using his voice and his brilliance to put together a book that would specifically address it, I think would be fantastic. So
Yeah,
thank you. That was
I
my question.
will. I'll plant the seed.
Please do.
I'll tell him you're specifically asked about it.
Okay, thank you.
Some people that are just there's a question, is Ryan out? So I'll say it again, but yeah, he had a operation that didn't go fully as planned yesterday, and he's doing well. He's fine, but he's got a huge bandage on his face, and he's kind of immobile today, so he's not able to be on the call. So I'm filling in. Rachel, let's do Michael Marty. Is there something I can do where we can start to like see people?
My camera doesn't seem to be working either, but I
Okay.
didn't mess
All right.
things up. And I have my questions written down. Is last time in the chat boxes, there were a couple of people mentioning things, as I do, about international time zones,
Oh,
in
yeah.
that our receiving the Daily Stoic isn't until noon, and I'm busy in the sunny
Right.
afternoon. Is it, have the tech gurus at Daily Stoic acknowledged that or started working on it?
I think we use a software called ConvertKit to send out the Daily Stoic email. I think and we do know some people on their team over there, and we've asked them about it. I think that the issue is there's no real way for them to know exactly where in the world people are. And I think there's some security reasons for that.
Yeah.
But
I was thinking it might not be possible until the next sign up, and when people do sign up, there would need to be a dialog box of what time zone person
yeah,
prefers. For the next class, this is my second class, and let's
where in the
see,
world are you?
Montenegro,
Oh, cool. What
over in
time is it there?
former Yugoslavia. It's 7:15 in the evening. It just got dark.
Yeah, wow.
And I have things to do if it's sunny and warm out, and so I'm outside from about 7 in the morning when it starts to get light until 5:30 now, when it starts to get dark. Short days, got to stay busy. Okay, my question was about day 7, count to 1,000. I put this up on the discussion board, and I'm not sure if I'm using the discussion board incorrectly, but I didn't seem to get responses. When I did it the first time out at a quiet spot on the lake and was distracted by the counting from my peace and calm and meditation that I usually do there. And then I did it a second time, and just lying in bed when I woke up before 6 and didn't get out of bed. I just made myself do it, and I lost count, and I made myself go back to it, and I lost count again. I made myself go back. So
Yeah.
I found it an exercise not in relaxing calm, which I find meditation is really good for, but I found it as a lesson in perseverance. Do you have a comment on that, or do people in the Zoom question and answers have something to say about that?
Yeah, I that's interesting. A practice in perseverance. Yeah, I don't think it was a challenge that had to be necessarily about peace. I think it was like we opened with the story of Seneca and trying to drown out the sounds of a bustling Rome. But I'd be curious if anyone else had thoughts in the chat about how that exercise was for them, because I agree with you. It was hard to not get distracted by thoughts to lose track of the counting. Paul said, I found the counting difficult but satisfying to achieve.
It says I'm going to run out of time. Are you still hearing me?
Yeah, I hear you. But yeah, I
I
think, go ahead.
I had another question. On the last assignment of the Stoicism 101 course was to find a mentor. And in addition to requesting a friend have more of a mentor friendship, I also did some research in Ben Franklin's life and found his virtues very important. He's got 13 virtues.
Yes.
And is there a course or is there a challenge in this course where we take a stoic look at Ben Franklin's chart and how he used it to monitor the application of his 13 virtues?
I don't think we specifically touch on it in this challenge. There is an upcoming day somewhat tangentially related to it, but we don't talk specifically about Ben Franklin's virtues.
Because I want to learn more about the virtues, and I realize that Ryan is writing a volume on each of the four
Yes.
cardinal virtues, but it's interesting to see how they are similar to Ben Franklin's 13. His are kind of incorporated into groups. I've seen a comparison chart, but it would be also interesting to compare to the virtues of the
Yeah, where did you first come across those 13 virtues? I think I lost him.
And I finally there. Internet connection is unstable. Hello.
Yes.
Hello. Oh, I wanted a mentor, so I thought of Ben Franklin, somebody that I could research at least. And in researching and reading about him, not only is he from Boston and grew up on Milk Street, but he wrote down 13 virtues when he was 20 years old and lived by them and had a way of focusing on one per week. And now there are charts you can get that for looking at and reviewing your application of them in what Ben Franklin wanted to maximize his moral pursuits.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, I think he's a great figure to choose as a mentor figure for sure.
Okay, well, maybe we'll come up with a similar discussions next time when Ryan's feeling better. My condolences that he's not feeling well, and thank you for stepping in and meeting the challenge.
Thank you, Michael.
All right, take.
How about Jessica?
Can you hear me?
I can hear you. It's weird.
Okay,
I can't
perfect.
see anyone.
Well, I'm blonde with curly hair and I have a lab coat on right now. So there you go.
Okay, I can see it.
So I'm the owner of a med spa. I'm a medical provider here in Connecticut. But also on the side, I am a Christian writer and blogger, and I'm working on my first novel.
Cool.
That being said, I started reading Discipline is Destiny on the advice of Nikki Sixx. I don't know if you know who he is. I don't know him personally, but I follow him. He's a rock star with Motley Crue.
What was his name? Nikki
Sixx.
Nikki Sixx.
Nikki Sixx. He's with Motley Crue.
Oh, cool. He recommended Discipline.
And he recommended Discipline is Destiny.
Cool.
And so that's how I discovered Ryan Holiday, and I'm just thankful for all of his work. It's been a blessing to me, and my oldest son is really into Stoicism and Marcus Aurelius, and turned me on to reading Meditations, which I started last year, and I'm going to finish this year as part of the challenge. I did get the other ones, Discourses and Letter to a Stoic. That being said, I write a lot better than I speak. I like to say that I'm a recovering introvert.
I relate to that.
And I love the intellectual stimulation that Stoicism has given me. I am a type 1 perfectionist. I know that about myself as well. So is there any resources out there or any writings that maybe Ryan's done and I just haven't seen that are kind of an encouragement to the sloppy social awkwardness that recovering introverts kind of have, and you know what I'm talking about?
Yes, there's a great book by I think it's Susan Cain called Quiet. Have you read that?
No.
And the subtitle is like why introverts, what is it? Sorry, we're pulling it up. It's something like why introverts rule in an extroverted world or something like that. And I think Ryan's interviewed her on the podcast.
Okay.
And it's the book is almost exactly about what you're describing.
Oh, good. I guess that gives me some comfort.
Yeah. Yes.
Is it Cain, Kane, or Kai?
Cain.
Oh, I was so close.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you. I won't take up much of the time, but thank you so much. And thank you for
Yes.
stepping in. You
Yeah.
did amazing.
Thank you. Let's see here. David Neff.
Okay, can you hear me?
I can hear you. Yes.
Okay, great. So my question is about, I've dealt with, imagined suffering, and over the years got myself to the point where I don't do that, and I just, deal with things as they come to me and everything. And being new to looking into Stoicism, and this being my first year with the 21-day challenge, trying to reconcile imagined suffering and premeditated evil, thinking through the things that can be wrong. So what's a way to get through that? Or can you, I guess, explain that for me better so I have a better grasp of it?
Oh man, this would be right up Ryan's alley. I think we have an article on this sort of dichotomy. I don't think I could do it and answer justice here, so I'm not even gonna. I think I'd be over my skis a little bit, but it is because it's something I also struggle with Stoicism, but I don't think I'm even going to take a stab at giving you advice on how to handle it. We're trying to pull up some resources that we'll drop in the chat related to it, because I know Ryan's written about this before.
Okay, well, I appreciate it. I know it's a difficult topic to get through and on an individual basis. I mean, I definitely understand imagined suffering, and then I understand the concept of, thinking through those things and premeditated evil. But then I just get myself in that little doom loop of, well, what about this? What about this? And going back and forth. So, but I appreciate you, taking the question and everything. And
I'm sorry I couldn't be more helpful with an answer, but
that's okay. I appreciate the effort.
All right. Thank you, David.
Thank you.
Let's see here. How about, sorry, I'm scrolling. Dan Stadler.
Hi, can you hear me okay?
I can, yes.
Great. So copying a lot of other people, but I mean it. I sure hope Ryan is healing as best he can. Billy, like Motley Crue, you are rocking it. So thank you for what you're doing.
That.
I also want to speak. I'm a family medicine doctor, and echoing a number of things that people have said, I find myself, without stating that I'm using Stoicism, I use a lot of the topics frequently. One is probably the most popular one is when I'm talking to people about, grief, anxiety, depression. I'm talking about, or trying to emphasize with people, what do you have control over? What do you not? And, only focus on what you have control. And that's been very helpful. Another comment is, what Becky was talking about, recovery. Yeah. I was struck by today's challenge. It reminded me of my training. We were required to go into inpatient rehab and attend, all the meetings and all the activities that the individuals who were there, we went along with them. And I remember one gentleman, who's recovering from drugs and alcohol, getting confrontative with one of the speakers, saying, what you're telling me to do is, stay away from my friends. In other words, get rid of all of my friends in the drinking and drugging community. And without hesitating, the leader of the conversation said, absolutely. And so I think that that was very powerful reading that today. But one thing I wanted to know from your standpoint, knowing Ryan, is I do think that many of the topics that he talks about are ubiquitous, regardless of a person's religious beliefs. And I think that's refreshing. As we're starting the year, I'm very frustrated with organized religion as I understand it. And I wonder, from your standpoint, do you see more of that happening with him when I think he sort of takes an individual, say, religion or theology, and can quote a person like he does the Stoics, finding commonalities, similarities as opposed to differences. Do you know if that is something that's forthcoming or that he has a particular interest in? I just find it refreshing.
I don't know. I feel like Ryan's sort of idea agnostic. Like there's a Seneca line about he'll quote a bad author if the line is good. And I think that's kind of Ryan's philosophy of writing is he tries to read very widely. And it's one of the things I've learned from him on the research side is casting as wide a net as possible. So I know he's always engaged in material beyond what I'm aware of what he's consuming. So he may very well be following some threads in that way, but I don't know specifically if he has plans to write on the topic.
Yeah, and I think that he has mentioned in the past, or kind of gave the challenge of having a thick bookshelf as opposed to a full bookshelf, meaning that one is challenged to read even about opinions that you are find yourself totally against or not understanding, but encouraging us to do that regardless, to understand where someone else is truly coming from.
Yeah, he has a piece on the sort of definition of genius as being able to hold two contradictory ideas in your mind at once. And I think he's pretty good at that. But yeah, I don't know if he's going to be writing more on it or not.
Yeah. Anyway, thank you so much for your time. Thanks for what you're doing.
Yeah. Let me see here. How about Jemima McWilliams? Did I say that right?
Hi, thank you very much for taking my question. Hi. I had a couple of questions, if that's okay. I'm still kind of quite new to kind of learning about Stoicism, and I've been really inspired by Ryan for a while, and the course this week, it's been absolutely brilliant. There were just a couple of things, I guess they're maybe quite basic to the more sort of experienced and well-read people amongst us. But my first question was about journaling, and which is something that I haven't done as yet. But I know obviously Ryan talks about it a lot, and I just wondered how to kind of get the best out of it, really, and how to do it, really, and what kind of is enough, what's too little, how to know if you've sort of how to feel good about it, if it's quite a daunting prospect, I suppose.
I can tell you how I do it, and maybe it would be helpful. So I do a version of what have you read Julia Cameron's The Artist's Way?
Yes.
So she talks about she calls it morning pages, and her thing is three pages longhand, and the only rule is that you can't stop. And I do a version of that, and I've found that it's helpful to, so every morning I do it, and I start by writing the date, the time, what I've done so far that morning, if I've eaten anything, just as a way to not sit down and not know what to write about. I start the same way every morning, and I find by the end of doing that kind of mundane recording of my day so far, almost every day, by the time I get to the end of that, I've thought of something that I want to explore in journaling. Or sometimes I'll go, what do you, I'll literally ask, I'll literally write this out. Like, what are you thinking about? What have you been hung up on recently? And I'll just start asking these questions just to make sure the pen is not stopping and following that rule. And then I'm trying to see if anything comes up when I'm asking those questions of myself, and always something does. And then I just follow that thread, and I'll be like, oh, that's interesting. Why are you thinking about this? And then I get to the end of the 3 pages, and I call it. And I've never once gone back and looked at journal entries, but I do find, like, you start to notice you are returning to certain patterns of thought routinely, and then I just kind of, I don't know, I found that to be helpful, to have that constraint of knowing how I'm starting each morning.
So it's like the kind of routine that's helpful, but also, I guess, kind of focusing your thoughts.
Yeah, the act of doing it, regardless of whether or not you go back and it also just takes off the pressure of, I need to write something brilliant this morning. It's very like stream of conscious.
Yeah, no pressure.
Yep.
Yeah. Thank you. That's really helpful. And I have one other kind of maybe smaller question, if that's okay, which was just, I wondered, and I'm sure Ryan has probably talked about this and I've possibly missed it, but I wondered, I guess, what the kind of Stoics would say, or what kind of Ryan's view would be on use of social media, because I am very addicted to social media, like I'm sure lots of people are, and it's definitely something that I identify, I guess, as a problem in my life. And I guess, I just wondered what the kind of Stoic teaching would be about it, and or maybe how you kind of approach social media in your life, and how you use it to be helpful.
I know that Ryan's strategy with it is he doesn't keep it on his phone, any of the social media apps. I think they are on his wife's phone, so if he does need to jump on and check something, he can, but there's a little bit of a hurdle between him and those apps. I use something called ClearSpace on my phone, and basically it's because I found I would just mindlessly pick up my phone, and the next thing I know, I've been scrolling Twitter for an hour. So I wanted to find something that kind of breaks up that mindlessness. So this app forces you through a series of steps to get into the app. So it starts by like, are you sure you want to go on Twitter or whatever it is? And then it's like, okay, deep breath in, deep breath out. And there's just a series of things. And usually by the time I like go through this process, I'm like, I actually don't think I even really want to go on Twitter right now. So I think that's been helpful for me too, because like you, I was kind of addicted and spending way too much time on it, and just that little hurdle of resistance between pulling out your phone and getting on those apps has been helpful, and I find I spend way less time on it. And I guess the Stoic take on it would be like, are you using the tools, or are they using you? And I felt like I was being used by Twitter and Instagram, whereas now I have more say, and do I actually want to be spending time on these things?
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, thank you very much. And thank you also everyone else for responding on the comments. That's really helpful. Thank you.
How about Justin Grace? ClearSpace. Is Justin there?
Yes, Justin, I think I'm asking you to unmute, so I think you just have to accept it.
Someone's asking about Ryan as much as he posts on social media. Yeah, we use something, I forget which one we use now, but we have everything that Ryan posts is pre-scheduled to go out at a certain time. So he's not actually posting those from his phone. What should we go to someone else? There's Justin. How about Brandon Roberts?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Awesome. Just like to say good work on what you're doing and cheers for stepping in. But I just wanted to ask, like, going back to one of the early challenges about reading, like
Yeah.
how would a Stoic or how would yourself go about learning through reading or listening to podcasts to get the most out of it?
I would check. Ryan's got a few articles and videos on his process, and I've adapted and adopted versions of what he does. But there's an article and a video on his note card system for how he remembers and recalls everything that he reads. And I think we did a video on that as well. But it's essentially his process, and what I've come to do as well is read a book, and as you're going through it, you make notes, fold over pages, all that kind of stuff, and then you set the book aside for a period of time, and then go back through it and transfer anything that holds up as interesting or useful into, in his case, it's onto physical note cards, and that he files them in boxes. But you could also use a digital version of this with like an Evernote or Notion or any of those, but it's kind of multiple times engaging with the material of the book and then transferring. And I think an important rule for him is not to just copy and paste or transcribe, but it's like, can you put it into your own words, and through just that act of taking the effort to do that, that material stays with you in a way that it otherwise wouldn't. But I think we just dropped in some links that would be a good starting point.
Awesome. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Hey,
How about, yeah.
Justin Grace is back, so I'm gonna
cool.
have his question.
Hey guys, can you hear me?
Yes, we got you.
Yeah, all right. Billy, you're a good sport for jumping in here, man.
I appreciate it.
For
Doing my
anybody
best.
who's on the call, Billy's stuff is awesome too. The 6 at 6 is great, dude.
I appreciate it.
I got a couple of questions for you actually. One
Okay.
is, rather than make you kick around in Ryan's shoes even more and ask you questions that are geared more toward him, can you take this as an opportunity to just kind of share with us what you're learning, for fear of embarrassing him if he watches this or whatever, what you're learning from him, man, not only from what he's kind of mentored you to do, or just in what you see him do, like more stoically, I guess, just to watch his day to day. How is that helping you craft where you want to go? And I say this selfishly, I hope it's leading to a book from you, man, because your stuff's awesome.
Yeah, I do. I sold a book 3 weeks ago now at this point. So I'm in the works
nice,
on
man.
my,
That's
on my
awesome.
first
Congrats.
book. Thank you. Yeah. It's, if everything goes if I can get my end of the bargain together, the publisher's aiming for fall of 2025 for releasing that, but it's I'm chugging away on it. So but as far as what I've learned from Ryan, I mean, as you mentioned, like just getting to observe him go about his day has been really informative for me. Like if I didn't get to see it I would think that Ryan spent way more time behind a computer writing than he does, but he's very sort of balanced, and he gets in, he puts in a few hours of work in, and then he's on the back porch with his kids, or he's on a long walk with them in the stroller, and then he comes back and he gets a little more work done. Then he's out on the back porch reading and making note cards. So it's been really informative, and basically the way I've gone about my like day to day is entirely informed by what I've learned from him, and just little things like carving out whenever there's like a lull in a day, or if you're going to a doctor's appointment, bringing a book and using that time efficiently. The note card system has been a real game changer for me, not just from the standpoint of getting more out of what I read, but everything that all the content I'm putting out is first comes from a note card of some kind. So it's totally I don't know, just informed and shaped how I go about
So
my
kind of sticking with the Julia Cameron, I actually think that's kind of your wheelhouse too, man. I appreciate so much of like your work being focused on like motivation, or like, you know, just stacking days and putting in the work here and there. Can you talk just a little bit about what your note card, like, are you just sort of scribbling down whatever it might be, like a random idea? Do you have a clear system? And that doesn't even have to be Ryan's system, right? But are you developing something yourself, or?
So
thanks, man.
Yeah, the way I've sort of deviated from what he does, like if you look at one of Ryan's note cards, it's very, they might just have a word or a phrase, and he immediately can recall why he wrote that down. But I started doing that initially with the note card system, and I found that I would forget what I was trying to remind myself of. So I've sort of evolved to a point where every note card I make, I want it to be as if I'm going to just transcribe it into a future piece of writing. So it would look more like how a paragraph would appear in an article. Or actually, the 6 at 6 is like everything in that newsletter is I'm essentially transcribing from a note card. Like that's how those note cards appear. And my first idea for the newsletter was just to scan and to scan 6 note cards each week. But then I did that and I just didn't like the way it looked. So I was just like, I'm just going to transcribe these into the email provider or whatever. But that's each of those 6 kind of bullet points in the newsletters is essentially what a note card looks like for me.
Cool. Thanks so much, man.
Yeah. Thank you. Matt Ludwig.
Hey, Billy, I appreciate it. Thank you. I appreciate you filling in, and you know, Ryan's work on Stoicism has obviously changed my life. I love this community. I've been here chat blasting everybody, and it's just such a positive feedback loop. Like it gets me so fired up. I also like how Ryan always discusses and speaks with teams. He spoke with, you know, Nick Saban's team in Alabama, and I come from a background of sports, and I love coaching. I actually, for the last 10 or 12 years, I have an affliction that's known as psoriasis. It's a chronic skin condition. It's pretty brutal. And after 10 years of allopathic treatments that didn't work out, I kind of just flipped the script and said, you know what, I got to start taking action on this. I have to start doing something practically at home and stop being a victim about this. And this is, you know, 6 years before my friend handed me Ego is the Enemy and said, you're going to like Ryan Holiday. So, you know, so I just started a community online throughout those years, Facebook group, Instagram page, you know, all the different big boys, and kind of started a movement because I realized there's thousands of other people that were also feeling powerless and wanted to take control and stop relying on drugs that were making it worse. So anyways, long story short, my friend handed me the book Ego is the Enemy and just blew me up. I had found my home. I had found my author. I had found my guy, so to speak. And so I guess this is more just you know, an applause to Ryan, and then, you know, I do online marketing, online systems building, design, and your team is just amazing at building the online spaces, the experience, and, you know, all the email automation, these amazing emails you guys put together, Ryan's brainchild, you know, coming to light.
Yeah.
My question for him today was going to be about asking about, you know, I loved "And Discipline is the Destiny." He followed Florence Nightingale, and you know, in helping and becoming a nurse in a time when women had no power and we're supposed to be just good wives and good mothers, and she just blasted out of that and started jumping on literally the front lines helping soldiers, and that was an awesome story. So I was going to ask him about any more stories, anything around, you know, that level of facing this unknown affliction, this disease with an unknown cause, and you just empowering self more and more to take action, being action oriented instead of waiting for a cure, which is the mentality of the modern day. That was kind of my question for him, and maybe, you know, you guys can collect some material if there's more on that, specifically with dealing with affliction, physical affliction, disease. And then I guess for you directly, now that we've been hanging out here for the last few minutes, is what inspired you mainly to, and how did you do it when you decided, I want to go work for Ryan? I want to go be this guy's apprentice. Like, just give me an idea of your origin story with Ryan too, you know, anything of that nature, but thanks a lot.
Yeah. So I really, when you were talking about the experience of reading Ego is the Enemy, I very much resonated with it because I had a similar kind of quake moment of reading. The first book I read of his was Perennial Seller, and I just started writing online, and a reader of that site recommended Perennial Seller, and I just had never read anything in that style before, and I immediately loved his work, and I got to the end of that book, and it's like also by author and it listed his other books, so I just ordered those and just was obsessed with his stuff. And then as I learned more about his trajectory and working under Robert Greene and some other writers, I don't think I would have thought to reach out to him if I hadn't learned that was kind of the path he went on, and it just sort of clicked for me that I was wanting to take writing more seriously, and books had always kind of just been this like magical thing that was on a bookshelf, and I didn't know how it got there, and so I became really interested in learning about the process of how that actually happens.
Nice.
So I just kind of like took a shot. I just sent him an email with a little bit about how his work had impacted me. I quoted a philosophy professor from college, and then offered to help on the research side if he ever needed it. And he got back to me a couple hours later and just like, yeah, actually could use some help. That's a good line from your professor. I'll be in touch. And then I heard from him a couple weeks later. He had just kind of an odd project that he needed help with, and it was just a series of those over the next few weeks and months. And then I was living in Colorado at the time. I was kind of ski bumming it. And I was doing the work with him whenever it came up. And then he had posted, are you familiar with the app Strava?
Yes,
Like
absolutely. Actually, my friend's getting me into that right now. He just bought me a heart rate monitor for my birthday, and he's pushing me hard towards, you can't change it if you don't track it. So I'm actually just getting on Strava. Yeah.
Oh, cool. Yeah. So I don't know how active Ryan is on there anymore, but at the time he would post almost every day, like where he had run that day. And so I pulled up the app one day. I was going out for a run in Colorado, and I saw that he had posted he was in Vail, which was like 15 minutes down the street from where I was, and it had never come up before then, like where I lived. But I emailed him, was just like, hey, I just saw you're in Vail. How long are you in town? And he was in town speaking at some conference of some kind, and he's just like, if you come over to this where the conference is, we'll find some time before or after to talk. And I went to it, listened to him speak, and then afterwards we just caught up while he waited for his rental to be pulled up by valet. And I just kind of asked him some questions and told him I was kind of in this inflection point of trying to figure out what I wanted to do next. And he was just like, I've actually been talking with my business partner about bringing on someone full time. Would you have any interest? So I just jumped on it, and I've been with him since.
Beautiful, man. That's awesome. I fired an email to him a couple years ago. I want to try and forward it again, see if I can nudge him at the right time. But that's awesome, man. I really appreciate your time and taking the question. I just know that, and somebody asked earlier about therapy and counseling, and stoicism fits. Absolutely, it fits. My friend and I are building a system around using motivational interviewing and behavior change to help people with addiction, alcohol addiction. And alcohol is destroyed many people in my family at many different times, and I see a lot of that. So
Oh, cool.
I'm looking forward to apply. I apply more and more Stoic principles with people when they're dealing with psoriasis and other chronic conditions to just help drive behavior change and really focus on that equanimity. That T chart, what's inside my control, what's outside.
Yeah.
And that's just such a great practical start to get someone's mind to quiet down.
Yeah.
And do less thinking and more doing. So that really is what drives results in this life.
Where are you building this?
Well, I have my spaces are known as Psoriasis Healing Warriors on Facebook. I have a group I moderate with about 20,000 people in it. And then of course, work on Instagram and my email list of a few thousand that I send out. Kind of the same. I mean, getting Ryan's emails has helped me craft my emails in a better format.
Yeah.
So I really learn a lot from how he and you and your team do your emails, the pacing of them, and the growth, because somebody can grow through that a lot. And
Yeah.
so yeah, but Psoriasis Healing Warriors is
Cool.
kind of where you could find me on Facebook, and now my membership I'm rolling out is going to be Healing Warrior World, because I kind of want to open it up to just people beyond psoriasis, because of course there's many of these mystery chronic diseases that people are struggling with. So yeah.
Awesome. I'm pulling it up right now. Cool,
man. Yeah, I got a page and a group under the same name there. Let's connect. Let's talk about it every once in a while. I appreciate your time.
I'd love to.
Awesome, Billy.
Thanks, man.
I'll reach out. All right.
All right, cool. Let's see here. Scott Traver.
Hey, Billy, how's it going? Thanks for stepping in.
Yeah, my pleasure. How are you?
Good. It's actually great that I'm talking to you and not Ryan, although I'd love to hear his opinions on this too. You guys recommend a lot of books, including The Inner Citadel, which is actually by Pierre Hadot. And fortunately, I can also read French, but I'm a native English speaker. And so I was really curious about your thoughts on how you guys choose whether or not to translate. And also kind of on the inbound end, thinking a lot about the major world religions, how do you reconcile and feel about not reading primary texts, kind of as they were originally written?
Yeah, it's a good question. One thing we have been trying to do is, like with meditations, for instance, we've been finding every translation we can find, and then seeing the different ways in which translators produce those books, and it's been revealing to see how different passages appear in different translations. But yeah, I don't know, that it would be a good question for Ryan. I'm not sure how he thinks about that.
Thanks. I think that's really interesting.
All right. Thank you, Scott. Let's see here. How about Anna Holmquist?
Hi.
Hi, Anna. How are you?
Good. So I guess my question is, since you're a research assistant to Ryan, from all of the works or like research that you've done, what has been your favorite thing to research that he hasn't used in any of his works?
Ooh. I'm not sure that I can't think of anything that he hasn't included. One of the main things he has me do is he when he nails down a story he wants to write about, my job is to then go find everywhere that story is told, and he wants to triangulate it, because for example, if he comes across a story in a Truman biography, like he read David McCullough's biography on Truman, and he finds a story there that he wants to write about, he then wants to find if it's told in any other biography or anything else on Truman to see if McCullough left out any details or quotes that he might want to use that's relevant to the story and the way he wants to tell it. So I'm usually coming in when he's decided what he wants to include in a book, and going out and hunting anything else I can find related to it. There are times when I'll just come across something in my sort of day-to-day reading and researching and I think might be a fit for him, and he'll either say this is good, but I don't think I'm going to use it, or he might put it on a note card and have plans for using it in the future. But yeah, I can't think of anything off the top of my head that I thought was great that he didn't include. It's a really interesting question, though.
Or I guess, is there any book recommendations that you would recommend to us to read?
Is there any specific genre or topic that you have in mind?
Or I guess just something recently that you would recommend.
I'm just finishing a biography of Marie Curie, and it's written by her daughter. I think it's by Eva is her name, or Eve, and it's a really I really enjoyed it, and it was cool. I don't know, she's just someone I really admire, and I would definitely check that out. Yeah, Madame Curie biography, dropping it in the chat here. Most of the reading I do is biographies, and so I'm trying to think. There's a guy named Brian J. Jones who I really like. He's written biographies of Dr. Seuss, George Lucas, who's the guy that created the Muppets? I'm trying to think of his name.
Oh, Jim Henson?
Jim Henson, yeah. That I think was my favorite. I didn't know anything about Jim Henson. I wasn't really into the Muppets growing up, but he has an incredible life story. So that's where those are 3 or 4 off the top of my head that I'd recommend.
Thank you.
Let's see here. How about where are we? Where are the hands? Up. How about Franklin?
I think he dropped off.
Franklin's gone.
Yeah.
Billy DeBono.
Hey, Billy.
Hey.
Simple question. You know, Ryan always talks about the importance, as well as the Stoics, they always talk about the importance of a morning routine, owning the morning.
Yeah.
And I kind of have a hard time turning my brain off at night. You know, I get going with my day, and, you know, I own 2 businesses. Very grateful for my success, but man, the brain just like does not stop grueling. Do you have a nighttime routine that you do that you just do just as importantly as you do in the morning routine?
I do not. I know Ryan has one, and he's written about his nighttime routine. I sort of in the evenings eat dinner with my girlfriend, and then pop on a couch and read for the rest of the night. But I nothing specifically to wind down, and I'm trying to think.